Hello, Guadans! How are you? Are you excited for our science class? Let's discover, experiment, and explore. I am Teacher Maria Esmeralda, and welcome to our science class. Hello, Guadans! Our topic for today is all about porosity. At the end of the lesson, you were expected to learn the following. Identify the difference between porous and non-porous materials. The second one, classify the porous and non-porous materials based on their characteristics. And the third one, appreciate the usage of each materials around them. Before we start our lesson, I want you to answer this following question. All you need to do is to identify which is porous and which is non-porous. First is sponge, second is handkerchief, the third one is towel, the fourth one is plastic chair, and the last one is metal utensils. Which is which? Sponge, is it porous or non-porous? That's great, it's porous. Handkerchief, porous also. How about towel? Porous. And plastic chair, non-porous, and metal utensils, non-porous also. What is porosity? Porosity is a property of a material that absorbs water and other liquids. Some materials like paper and cloth can absorb liquid well. Porous materials can absorb water and other liquid substances. The small holes that allows air and liquid to pass through are the reasons why porous materials can absorb water. These are the examples of porous materials. First one is foam, second, towel, third, handkerchief, fourth, cloth, fifth, sponge, sixth, tissue roll, and the last one is clothes. Non-porous materials are materials that does not allow liquid and air to pass through. That is why non-porous materials such as glass, plastic, and rubber cannot absorb water. These are the examples of non-porous materials. First one is metal utensils, second, plastic utensils, and last is glasses. Let's sum it up. Porous materials, it has many pores, it can absorb water and other liquid. While non-porous materials, non-porous surfaces are smooth and sealed so liquid and air cannot move through it. I want you to answer this following question. Identify the materials that can absorb water and materials that cannot. Write porous if the material can absorb water and write non-porous if the material cannot absorb water. First one is glasses. Second is cloth. The third one is nail. Fourth is sponge. And the last one is cotton balls. Let's answer this. Glasses. Porous or non-porous? That's great, non-porous. The second picture is cloth. Porous or non-porous? Good job! That is porous. And the third picture is nail. Porous or non-porous? That's correct, non-porous. The fourth one is sponge. Of course, that is porous. And the last one but not the least is cotton balls. That is porous also. Now, let's proceed to our lesson 2, density and buoyancy. At the end of the lesson, you were expected to learn the following. Identify what is density and buoyancy, classify materials based on the ability to float and sink, appreciate the usages of each materials around them. Guadans, have you ever wondered why ships float while some things that are smaller than them sink? Why do some materials float on water while some sink? Here's the reason why. The floating and sinking of objects do not depend on their sizes. They depend on their density. What is density? Density is the amount of matter that an object has. It is related to the mass and volume of an object. The density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter or 1 ml milliliter. Density. Density is the measure of how much mass is contained in a given volume. Density is made up of two measurements, mass and volume. So the density of an object is expressed as a relationship between two units. Density is equal to mass over volume or gram per ml. If a material has a density that is greater than the density of water, it will sink. On the other hand, a material with less density than water will float. Buoyancy is the tendency of an object to float or rise when put in a liquid. It is an upward force exerted by a fluid that opposes the weight of a partially or fully immersed object. The buoyancy of an object is affected by the buoyant force exerted on it. What is buoyant force? Buoyant force is the upward push exerted by a liquid, like water, on an object. For example, Anna threw a plastic bottle in the pool. After she threw the plastic bottle, she saw that it is floating. With that, Anna tried to sink the bottle in the deepest part of the pool using the force of her hand. But when she sank the plastic bottle, she felt a sudden upward force that pushing the plastic bottle back to the surface. When she released the plastic bottle, it floats again. The upward force is what we call buoyant force. Guadans, did you know? Salt makes water denser. The more salt in the water, the more buoyant an object floating on it becomes. This is why a lot of objects and even people can float on the salt water. To measure the learning that you gained to our lesson, I want you to answer the following question. Number 1. What do you call the upward force of water that keeps things afloat? What's your answer? A. Buoyant force, B. Heat force, C. Magnetic force, and D. Work force. The answer is buoyant force. Who got the correct answer? That's awesome! Number 2. What is the measure of density? Letter A. Gas per unit of matter. Letter B. Matter per unit of solid. Letter C. Volume per unit of mass. And letter D. Mass per unit of volume of matter. What's your answer? The correct answer is letter D. Number 3. What is the density of water? Letter A, 1 gram per ml. Letter B, 2 grams per ml. Letter C, 3 grams per ml. And letter D, 4 grams per ml. What's your answer? The correct answer is letter A, 1 gram per ml. Who got the correct answer? Good job! Next question. If a material has a density that is greater than the density of water, it will blank. Letter A, drift. Letter B, hover. Letter C, float. And letter D, sink. What's your answer? The correct answer is letter D. A material with less density than water will blank. Letter A, descend. Letter B, disappear. Letter C, float. And letter D, sink. What's your answer? The correct answer is letter C. It will float. That's the end of our discussion. See you on our next class. Bye!